Polly from Team Element Gaming here. Going to be doing a video on crafting today. So a short guide on what kind of cards, if you're a new player, that you might want to craft or have a think about if you haven't got the full collection. So first off, what I'm going to say is make sure you complete the campaign missions. There's 3 bosses for each one, and each time you beat one of these bosses you get some cards from that. So definitely beat the bosses here and you can gain cards. And before I talk about what cards are good to craft, hardcore basics here, make sure you complete as many of the quests as you can here. Obviously every 100 gold you get, you can buy a booster pack, so make sure you're completing these quests and not letting them stagnate in here and get full up. So make sure you complete these. And now they have introduced recently shadow runs for Pandora, so even if you don't have a Pandora coin, each day you can do call it a phantom run, where you've got the chance of getting the maximum is 6 wins and 2 losses, and you get gold that increments up based on how many wins you get. So you can do some Pandora phantom runs for extra gold also. So first of all I'm going to talk about the cards. So first I'm going to go over some of the neutral harvesters in the game that farm the Faeria. The reason I'm going to say these are important is because you can use these in all the decks that you make, so it's always nice to have neutral cards that you can use in a number of decks. So if some of these cards are included in the codex and you've already got them, just ignore this because I've got all the cards now. I'm not 100% sure what you start with. But good harvesters are farm boys that you can use in decks to harvest Faeria, particularly in kind of control decks where you want to harvest some more Faeria. So these are good gatherers here, and they're very cheap, and it costs you 5 crystals. And other good cards, Village Elder is a really good card. Harvests Faeria and it's cheap, and it gets you to draw a card. So this is one of my favourite harvesters, so this is a really nice card if you want to play more of a controlling deck and harvest some Faeria. Court Jester is another fairly good harvester. I wouldn't put it in the same category as maybe a Village Elder because it draws you a card, but if you're playing a heavily based creature deck, Court Jester can be quite nice card to harvest there. And as you notice, the rares cost 20 crystals to craft one card, and the commons cost 5, and the epics cost 80. So what I would say is, if you're really struggling for crystals at the start and you want some harvesters, try and craft the cheapest commons you can, and that way you get more cards and they're still strong. So you can craft 3 of these for the same price or cheaper than 1 of these, so this is a good thing to think about. Try and get as many of the commons at the start, so you can make a deck or rares. All the good cards in the neutral set. Defender of the Homeland can be really good when you're facing a lot of aggressive rush decks, so this is a card you can think about if you're facing a lot of rush decks and can't deal with them. So it's just a neutral card, and it's fairly cheap at 3 Faeria, and it's a 2/4 taunt. So if you're facing tons of rush decks and haven't got many cards to cope with that, this card can be fairly good versus those. Let's have a look. All the good cards. The Outland Ranger is a good card and makes its way into a lot of constructed decks. It's a rare, so it costs you 20 crystals. It's a 3/2 body, which is good for 3 Faeria, and it adds a campfire to your hand. So campfire is a 1/1 creature buff. So Outland Ranger is another one of the strong gatherers. So between Outland Ranger, Village Elder, Farm Boy and Court Jester are some of the strongest gatherers, but this is up there with one of the really top tier gatherers. If you are interested in making an aggressive deck, like a burn deck, if you like playing that kind of burn style where you're doing damage to your opponent's face more aggressively, the Rebel Slinger is a really good card, and it can gather area. It's a 2/2 body and deals 2 damage to your opponent. So this card is really cheap to craft, and it makes its way into burn decks, so this is a nice card to pick if you're interested in playing some aggressive decks. One of the last gatherers that is really strong is the Horsemaster here. So it's cheap to craft at only 5 because it's a common, and it gives a creature for 1 turn charge 3, which is quite a good surprise factor, and you can get favourable trades. So this is also one of the good harvesters. So this an Outland Ranger and Village Elder are some of the kind of top tier harvesters, I would say. Okay, so 4 and upwards, there aren't any cards that you definitely want to pick up that are really strong, but I'll talk about the Freedom Fighter. This card is a fairly good aggressive card. It has haste, and so it means it can move and attack, gather that turn, and it's cheap to craft, and it can make its way into aggressive decks if you're struggling for aggressive cards. So this card can be fairly strong in those decks. And also I want to quickly talk about Steamforged Enforcer. This is another common card, only 5 area, 5 crystals, sorry, and it's a good card in aggressive decks. So you can push quickly towards your opponent with your lands and play this card, and it's fairly strong. 6 cost for 6/5, and it's another cheap craft as well. Other good cards in the neutral set. Let me just see ones which Kingsguard can make its way into control decks, but it's not super popular, but it is a taunt and it does give you a draw card. So another fairly good card, I'd say. Thinking of cheap cards which are strong. I think they're the main ones. Maceman only costs 5 crystals. It's not a great card at 4/4, but it's mediocre. So if you're struggling to get cards at the right size or for that mana cost at 4, the Maceman is average, but it can be useful if you're struggling for cards there. So once you've picked your neutral creatures you might want to gather with or be aggressive with, etc., you have to move on to choose whether you're going to craft green cards, blue, red, yellow, or you want a mix of them all, basically. So the best advice I can give you is, once you've completed all the training missions, go on to the new deck build. Look at the Codex cards, and these are the cards you should have when you complete the missions. So once you complete the missions versus the bosses, you get the option of playing these Codex cards here, and you can mix and match if you wanted to play some green, some yellow, etc. The best advice I have is to try some different colours out, see which colour you find the best or the most enjoyable at the moment, and craft those cards first, rather than if you get just a couple of cards from each colour, you're going to struggle because you won't be able to make a proper deck with a lot of synergy. So it's best to stick with 1 or 2 colours first when you're trying to craft some decks. As a rule of thumb here, the neutral cards only make it into decks, let me try and find it, for harvesters, and so it's mainly harvesters, and some Steamforged can be in aggressive decks, and also Steamforged here +1 is an okay card, but it's mostly the neutrals are for gathering. Blue cards tend to have a lot of creatures that have jump, which means you can jump over squares, and lots of spells and lots of basically lots and lots of spells that can do like a lot of different things. So if you really like playing lots of spells, blue could be the one you want. They also have aquatic, which means they can jump into the water, and they can move on squares where you haven't built lands. Greens, the green cards are fairly it's fairly not strict, but yes, a fairly strict kind of archetype where they just play lots of big creatures, there's lots of heals in here, lots of creature buffs. So it's mainly big creatures, heals, and creatures that can buff other creatures when they die. So green are the ones you might want to play at the start, because the creatures on their own are fairly quite strong, and can make up for a lack of expensive cards. So green is a really good class to start with, just based on that. Red have a lot of minions that can deal damage to your opponent through effects. So for instance here, when a creature dies, deal 1 damage to your opponent. You have lots of aggressive spells that just deal damage, and lots of medium-sized creatures, I'd say mostly, will have a lot of burn effects to your opponent, so deal damage to your opponent in combat. Same for this character here. So if you like playing characters that burn your opponent down with creature text, and they've got lots of spells that can bomb your opponent, red is a good class to start with. And lastly, yellow has a couple of different roles. Firstly, it has a lot of flying creatures that can move over squares with water on, so they've got a lot of flying creatures like here. They also have a lot of creatures that deal damage to you possibly, but can be played aggressively. So you might find a lot of yellow players are playing rush aggressive decks that swarm you with little minions to try and kill you quickly. You can also play a controlling style, but I'd say for the start it's quite difficult to play with yellow unless you have all the right cards, because they seem to, if you don't have the synergy right, the deck can be fairly weak. So that's one thing to think about. So have a look through, play the classes, each one, play them a few games on the ladder, or ranked or whatever, or Pandora, see which one you like best, and then begin crafting cards in those colours. What I'm going to do now, I've talked about neutral creatures, I'm going to make 4 separate videos and talk about each of the classes in depth. So one about blue creatures and all the cards there, what's strong, etc., and the same for each one. So I'm going to try and do it day by day, so hopefully there'll be a video out tomorrow about blue, green, red, yellow. So I'll do one video on each section of the cards. So I hope the neutral guide helped you this morning. What neutral creatures can be strong, which are cheap to craft, and I hope to release a couple more videos on each of the different colours that can give you an idea of what cards are strong before you have to craft them, so you don't potentially waste resources, etc. So thanks for watching, I'll see you guys soon. Peace.